Ghislaine Maxwell's first accuser Jane says Epstein made her straddle his face and pinch his nipples when she was 14 years old, while Ghislaine watched. By Caleb Brantley for DailyMail.com and Daniel Bates at the Thurgood Marshall United States Courthouse, NYC, for DailyMail.com. Published, 1452 EST, November 30, 2021. Ghislaine Maxwell's first accuser, known as Jane, has taken the stand to testify that she was 14 years old when she first had sexual contact with Jeffrey Epstein. In bombshell testimony Tuesday afternoon, the woman said Ghislaine Maxwell was in the room during the alleged abuse. Wearing gray wraparound sweater, a black dress and black boot, she pushed back her jet black hair and took off her mask after the judge reassured her that the sketch artists could not draw her likeness. She detailed how Epstein would have her straddle his face, pinch his nipples, and took her into a pool house, then proceeded to masturbate on me. Then he went into the bathroom and cleaned himself and acted like nothing happened. I'd never seen that before, she said. Jeffrey proceeded to masturbate again. Ghislaine was rubbing on him, kissing on him. Jane said Maxwell was very casual about the encounter and acted like this was entirely normal. I was confused. When you were 14 you have no idea what is going on. Did Maxwell touch your body? The prosecutor asked. Yes, Jane replied, saying the sexual abuse happened every time I visited his house. When asked if Epstein touched her, Jane replied, yes, everywhere. The woman spoke in a strong, deep voice that only faltered when she was describing in graphic detail the sex acts Epstein and Maxwell allegedly did to her. Maxwell did not appear to react to any of the woman's testimony, including when Jane pointed her out in court to identify her. She said she traveled to his other homes about 10 times in New York and New Mexico on Epstein's private plane and described the decor, art, sculptures, pictures of famous people, presidents. I thought some of the art was odd, naked women, creepy animals, she recalled. She said the abuse at his New York home would happen in the massage room. During the trips to New Mexico, Jane said she spent most of her time at his Zorro ranch in the middle of nowhere. She recalled a time when she was 15 and someone came into her room and said, "Jeffrey wants to see you," and escorted her to see him. Sobbing, Jane said, "I did not want to go see him." Jane said she was told Donald Trump, Bill Clinton and Mike Wallace were in their social circles. She said Maxwell gave her advice, that if you FCK them you can always FCK them, their sort of grandfathered in, adding, "I didn't know what it meant." She said she first met Maxwell and Epstein at Interlochen Music Center in Michigan. The woman had a dog and the man said they were big benefactors. They asked for my mother's phone number, a landline, she said. Jane's father was a musical composer and died of leukemia. She said his employer canceled his health insurance and they essentially went bankrupt and had to move. She said Epstein swooped in and began paying for voice lesson, clothes and schooling. During yesterday's opening statement, the prosecution said Maxwell and Epstein would prey on girls with single mothers who had financial trouble and promise them the world. Jane recalled spending time at a pool with Maxwell and Epstein for the first time. There were 4 women and Ghislaine, all topless, and some of them were naked. I was shocked. I hadn't seen that before. Maxwell would ask me if I had boyfriends, she added. Prosecutor Allison Moe asked who was in the room when Jane was first abused. Ghislaine Maxwell, Jane said before pointing out Maxwell. There, in sort of a beige turtleneck. Earlier on Tuesday, Larry Visoski, Epstein's chief pilot who flew the pedophile financier for more than 25 years, said he was introduced to Jane in the cockpit of the Lolita Express in the mid to late 90s. Mr. Epstein brought her to the cockpit. She had piercing powder blue eyes, Visoski said. Maxwell's attorney Christian Everdell asked during cross-examination, "And beyond the striking blue eyes, you have said she had large breasts, right?" Visoski answered that she was a mature woman. When asked if he remembers Virginia Roberts, Visoski replied, "Yes, a shorter woman with dirty blonde hair. She didn't look young. I mean, whatever you decipher as the definition of young, but she was a woman in my category," he added. Despite being called as a prosecution witness, Visoski's testimony appeared to aid the defense. "I never saw any sexual activity, no," Visoski said, but admitted that he could not see everything that went on. Asked if he ever saw any sex toys, condoms or clothing strewn about the plane, he said no and denied seeing any sexual activity of any kind. On Monday during opening statement, Maxwell's defense attorney Bobby Sternheim began by introducing Jane as a talented musician and a singer from a musical family. She took aim at Jane and attempted to discredit her account. She described Jeffrey Epstein as a patron of the arts and a supporter of young talent, sponsored musicians and artists and actresses and others. Epstein, Sternheim said, became Jane's benefactor and paid for her schooling, vocal lessons and even co-signed for an apartment on Wall Street where Jane lived with her mother and brothers. A month before Epstein's arrest in 2019, Jane did not want to be involved in any criminal case regarding Epstein, Sternheim said. But after Epstein died, she changed her mind. When money was on the line, she changed her mind. She hired a lawyer, she became a client, they got in touch with the government, and said she changed her mind. Why? Because assisting the government would help a claim with the Epstein fund. Sternheim added that once Epstein died and Jane had a lawyer by her side, she suddenly remembers all this horror that happened to her and places Ghislaine at the center of it all. Hundreds of things that happened to her that no one knew about, not her mother, not her brothers, not her teachers, not staff at the house, not her coaches, all of this that the government claims happened and she didn't skip a beat. Nobody ever noticed anything amiss. Sternheim said that Jane is now a successful actress on a soap opera and has been on sitcoms, reality shows, movies, podcasts and drama series. She is a consummate actress, she is a pro at playing roles. And as her scripts and characters change, so has her story that you will hear in this courtroom, Sternheim said. I ask you to examine her testimony, and you will find internal inconsistencies. When money was on the line, she tagged Ghislaine. Sternheim revealed that Jane received $5 million from the victim's fund. Maxwell entered the Manhattan courtroom Tuesday morning wearing a cream sweater, black slacks and looked on as Visoski was questioned. Visoski revealed Donald Trump flew on Epstein's private plane. I certainly remember President Trump, but not many people associated with him, Visoski said, adding that Trump's flights happened before he was president. Visoski also confirmed that President Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew and Kevin Spacey were all aboard his flights. He added that he was asked to clean up after Clinton's flight, but did not elaborate. Visoski said that the doors to the cabin on Epstein's planes were always shut and he had no way of observing what was going on. The famous names came up in the context of whether Visoski knew who was flying on the Gulfstream G2B and Boeing 727, known as the Lolita Express. During cross-examination, Everdell asked Visoski, "Are you aware of Prince Andrew, the Duke of York? He is the son of Queen Elizabeth II of England." Visoski replied, "Yes." Everdell said, "Did he fly on Epstein's planes?" Visoski replied, "Yes." Everdell asked, "Do you recall the first time he flew on a plane?" Visoski said, "No, I don't." Earlier Everdell asked Visoski if he knew the names of all the people who flew on his plane, and he said number. Everdell said, "Former President Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane a few times in the 2000s. Visoski replied, "Yes, he did." Everdell said, "You might be told that information in advance so you might make sure the plane was looking nice. Special catering?" Visoski replied, "Sure." Visoski also confirmed that Leigh Wexner, the founder of the Limited, which owns Victoria's Secret, was on planes that he flew. Visoski said that doors between the cockpit and the passenger cabin were closed, but he said that he could go to the back whenever he wanted to use the toilet. He again said he never saw any sexual activity. Visoski said Maxwell was the number 2 and that Epstein was the big number 1 when asked about their relationship. When asked how many other assistants Epstein had in addition to Maxwell, he replied that there were many, identifying Maxwell's own assistants. He specifically named Sarah Kellen, who has been accused of playing a pivotal role in Epstein's empire, procuring girls, coaching them and acting as a lieutenant to Maxwell. Visoski was also asked to identify parts of Epstein's 10,000 acres Oro Ranch in New Mexico where airplanes were parked. He said he would often go to the main residence to pick up luggage and help install electronics. Visoski said he performed similar tasks on Epstein's private Caribbean island Little Street, James, and would also fly the helicopter to the island from nearby Street, Thomas. He added that the island could also be reached by boat. To find out more, please follow the links on screen and in the description. Together, let's make sure justice is served.